I still remember the smell of her perfume lingering in my living room. Lavender and something bitter. That day, she walked in like she always did. Uninvited, unapologetic, and unnervingly calm. But the words she said would shift the axis of my life. "You should quit your job, Emily," she said, her voice as silky as poison. "It's time you focus on the family. On my son." My fingers stiffened around the coffee mug in my hands. I looked at her, blinking, trying to gauge if she was serious or just playing one of her usual passive-aggressive games. But the way she sat back, legs crossed, like she was settling in for a negotiation, told me otherwise. "I beg your pardon?" I asked, already feeling the heat rise in my chest. She gave a little laugh, the kind that never reached her eyes. "Oh, come on, darling. You know how stressed Alex has been. And that job of yours, what is it again? Marketing? Social media? It's not really a real job, is it?" There it was. The job I'd been anticipating ever since I got hired at one of the top firms in the city. I love my job. It was demanding, yes, but it gave me purpose, independence, and pride. I had built my way up from nothing. When I met Alex, I was already successful. But ever since I married into his family, it felt like I had become an unwanted addition, especially in her eyes. Still, I try to keep my cool. "My job is important to me," I replied steadily. "It took me years to get here." She rolled her eyes, like I was a stubborn child refusing to understand basic logic. "But what about us? What about family values? You don't need to earn money. Alex makes enough, and frankly, with the amount of time you spend at work, I'm surprised this marriage is still standing." I felt a sudden sting. That one hit hard. And she knew it. "I'm sorry, but I'm not quitting," I said firmly. "If Alex has a problem with it, he can tell me himself." She stood up then, slowly, placing her mug on the table like a final move in a chess game. "You'll regret this, Emily. One day, you'll see that pride doesn't feed a family. Loyalty does." And just like that, she left. I stood there, stunned, questioning what had just happened. My heart was racing, not just from anger, but fear. What did she mean by "you'll regret this"? Why did it sound more like a threat than advice? That night, I told Alex. Or tried to. He sighed and rubbed his temples. "Babe, you know how she is. Just let it go. She's old-fashioned, that's all." "She basically told me to give up everything I've worked for," I said, voice rising. "That's not just old-fashioned. It's controlling." But he was already done listening. "Let's not turn this into a fight, Em. Please. I'm exhausted." And that's when I knew I was on my own in this. The following days were worse. Subtle things started happening. One afternoon, my manager emailed asking why I hadn't responded to a complaint from a client, an email I never received. Then, I got a calendar invite for a meeting that didn't exist, making me look unprepared. It felt like sabotage. I even checked my laptop for malware. And then it clicked. Only one person had been alone in my home office recently. Her. I didn't want to believe it. It felt too extreme, too paranoid. But everything about her demeanor that day, how confident she was that I'd quit, came rushing back like a slap. Still, I kept going. I doubled down at work. Proved myself again. I wasn't going to let her win. But she didn't stop either. She started dropping by more often, pretending to help out. I'd come home from work and find my drawers rearranged, my calendar suspiciously open on my desk, and once, my resignation letter drafted in my documents folder. I confronted Alex. Again. He looked torn. "She's just trying to help," he muttered. "She means well." I found a resignation letter on my computer. "Did you write it?" He blinked. "No. Of course not. Why would I?" "I think your mother is trying to sabotage me." He finally looked alarmed. "Emily, do you hear how that sounds? Do you hear how she sounds?" I snapped back. That was the first time he didn't speak in her defense. But it wasn't reassurance, it was fear. Something about the way he hesitated made me realize. He knew something. And maybe he was protecting her. Or maybe he was protecting himself. I didn't know what was worse. One thing was certain, my life had shifted. What once was a marriage built on love and partnership was now riddled with silence, suspicion, and manipulation. And the center of it all was a woman who smiled in my face and plotted behind my back. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, I received a message on my personal email account, a file attachment from an anonymous sender. Subject line: "Thought you should see this." I hesitated before clicking. My pulse pounded. My palms went cold. The file loaded slowly. And then I saw it. Screenshots. Dozens of them. Emails sent from my account that I had never written. Messages canceling meetings, complaining about coworkers, and worst of all, telling HR that I was planning to step down. Every single one timestamped from the days she had been alone in the house. I felt my knees buckle. The room spun. This wasn't just family drama. This was war. I stared at the screen, heart hammering in my chest. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through the emails again. Each one was carefully worded, professional, polite, and entirely out of character for me. But anyone reading them wouldn't suspect a thing. That was the terrifying part. It looked authentic. And the only person who could have done this was someone who had access to my computer, knew my routine, and hated my independence more than anything. Margaret. My mother-in-law. She must have waited until I left for work, sneaked into the office, used my computer, and sent these emails out, probably thinking she was being clever by slowly ruining my professional credibility. I forwarded the email to my work account, then deleted it from the inbox, trying to control the panic swirling inside me. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. This was calculated sabotage. I needed to talk to someone. But who? Alex? He had been brushing things off for weeks. He wouldn't believe it. And even if he did, he'd find a way to excuse her again. That much I was sure of. So I did the only thing I could. I backed up everything. Every email. Every screenshot. I uploaded them to a cloud drive and protected them with a password. Then I locked my office door and changed all my computer passwords that night. I didn't sleep. The next day at work, I acted normal. I forced myself to smile through meetings, respond to emails like nothing had happened, and pretend everything was fine. But it wasn't. A storm was growing inside me. The betrayal. The manipulation. The fact that someone who was supposed to be my family had gone so far just to break me.
Why?
What did she gain from this? Control? Validation? Did she hate me that much? On Friday evening, I came home and found Margaret in my kitchen. She was cutting vegetables, humming a church hymn like she lived there. "I didn't know you were coming," I said tightly. "Oh," Alex said I could stop by. "I thought I'd make dinner. You must be exhausted, working woman and all." She smiled sweetly, like nothing was wrong. I stared at her, biting back the words burning on my tongue. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my laptop in her face and ask her why. But instead, I sat down and said nothing. Because I needed to be smart. Margaret liked to play the victim. She'd twist anything I said into something cruel. I couldn't afford to lose control. Not yet. Later that night, when Alex came home, I pulled him aside. "I have something to show you," I said. He looked tired, annoyed, but he followed me to the office. I opened the cloud drive and showed him the screenshots. He leaned over, scrolling slowly. The deeper he went, the more his face changed, from confusion to shock to guilt. "Emily," he whispered, "what the hell is this?" "You tell me," I said coldly. "Because these weren't written by me, and someone's been trying very hard to ruin my career." He rubbed his hands over his face. "This is insane. Who would? Who had access, Alex? Think. Who comes here while we're at work? Who hates that I have a job?" His silence was the answer. "Your mother," I said. "It's her. She did this." "No," he said quietly, shaking his head. "She wouldn't. That's insane, Emily." "Is it?" I snapped. "Because you saw how she pressured me. You heard her say I should quit. And now you're telling me this isn't deliberate?"
He didn't respond.
Instead, he turned and walked out of the room. And that was the worst part. Not the silence. Not even the betrayal. It was the fact that, even with evidence, He still couldn't face the truth about his mother. Margaret stayed for dinner again the next night. By then, I was done being subtle. I sat across the table, watching her eat like she hadn't destroyed part of my life. "Did you access my computer recently?" I asked calmly. She didn't flinch. "Your computer?" "No, darling. Why would I do that? I found some interesting emails. Sent from my account. Things I never wrote." She met my eyes then. Her smile never wavered. "That sounds concerning. Maybe you should be more careful with your passwords." A chill crept down my spine. She knew, and she wasn't even hiding it. After dinner, she pulled me aside in the hallway. "I know what you're trying to do, Emily," she said, voice low and sharp. "But it won't work. Alex is loyal. And you're just a phase." I stared at her, stunned. "A phase?" I whispered. She leaned in. "You think a job makes you powerful? You're disposable. All it takes is one push. One misunderstanding. One email. And you're gone." And then she walked out the front door like she hadn't just threatened my entire life. That night, I sat in bed, holding my laptop and cried. I wasn't weak, but I was exhausted. She was winning. Not because she was right, but because no one was stopping her.
Until now.
Because in that moment I made a decision. I wasn't going to wait for Alex to grow a spine. I wasn't going to wait for my boss to question another email. I wasn't going to let her destroy me. I would fight back. On my terms. The next morning, I didn't go to work. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, coffee going cold beside me. I had spent the entire night thinking, remembering every look, every word, every manipulative little tactic Margaret had used since the day I said, "I do." She had never wanted Alex to marry me. To her, I wasn't family material. I was too opinionated, too independent, too educated. She had once told me, laughing but serious, "You're the kind of girl that builds an empire, not a home." She meant it as an insult. Now I wore it like armor. I opened my email and typed a message to HR. A carefully worded explanation of what I had discovered. I didn't accuse anyone directly, but I attached the screenshots and asked if they could review the activity log from my company email. I also mentioned I believed my account had been accessed without my permission from my home IP address. Within 2 hours, I got a reply. "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We've forwarded this to our cybersecurity team." That was enough. I didn't need to scream.
I didn't need to cry.
I just had to be patient. Let the facts speak. Around noon, I received a call from my boss. "Emily, our IT confirmed something strange. There were multiple logins to your work account from an external IP address, all on the days you were supposed to be in office." I swallowed hard. "Can you trace where the login came from?"
"We did," he said.
"It was your home network." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. He continued. "I believe you when you say it wasn't you. I just wanted you to know we're handling it. Privately." Relief washed over me. I wasn't losing my job. I wasn't being blamed. But something still didn't sit right. That night, I decided to go deeper. I dug out our old home security tablet, the one connected to the cameras we'd stopped checking months ago because Alex had said they were overkill. I reconnected it to the Wi-Fi, tapped through the menu, and opened the cloud footage. The first few days? Normal. Then I reached last Tuesday, the day she had cooked dinner. The day she had smiled at me like she had nothing to hide. There she was entering the house alone. Alex wasn't home yet. She walked straight into my office, sat at my desk,
Typed on my keyboard.
stayed there for 43 minutes. I watched the footage in full. She didn't just access my computer.
She printed something.
She folded it, put it in her purse. I paused the screen.
Zoomed in.
The printout had my company logo at the top. A resignation form. So it was her. But now I had undeniable proof. I saved the clip and backed it up. I wasn't just playing defense anymore. Now I had the upper hand. Later that evening, Alex came home. He walked in, kissed my cheek, and asked how my day had been, as if our world wasn't quietly imploding. "I need to talk to you," I said. He looked at me, wary. "About what?" "About your mother." He sighed. Emily. I didn't let him finish. I picked up the tablet and pressed play. He watched the footage in silence. When it ended, he dropped into the chair like his knees had given out. I don't understand, he mumbled. Why would she? I think you do understand, I said quietly. You just don't want to admit it. He buried his face in his hands. She's been under pressure, Em. After Dad died, she changed. No, I said. She didn't change. She just stopped pretending. He didn't say anything. I sent all of this to HR. I continued. And to myself. And to my lawyer. That got his attention. Wait, you're getting a lawyer involved? I looked him dead in the eyes. If she tries one more thing, yes. I'll file charges for digital fraud, identity impersonation, workplace sabotage. This isn't just family drama anymore, Alex. It's criminal. He stared at me like I was a stranger. And maybe I was. Because I wasn't the same woman who tried to blend into his family. I wasn't the woman who stayed quiet to keep the peace. Not anymore. Just when I thought that would be the end of it, just when I started feeling safe again, the final shock came. 2 nights later, I was working late when I heard the doorbell ring. It was nearly 10 p.m. I walked cautiously to the door and peeked through the peephole. Margaret. Alone. Drenched in rain. She looked desperate. I opened the door a crack. What do you want? She didn't answer right away. Her eyes were red. She was shaking. Not from the cold, but from something else. Shame? Rage? Fear? I need your help, she said quietly. I laughed, bitter. My help. I made a mistake, Emily. I pushed too far. And now she hesitated. Now I'm in trouble. I stepped outside, shutting the door behind me. What kind of trouble? Her lips trembled. The business. The house. I mortgaged it.
Twice.
I thought I could fix it, but the money, it's gone. I stared at her. Are you saying you're broke? She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. I need a loan. Just a small one. I wouldn't ask if it weren't serious. And that's when it hit me. The irony. The woman who tried to destroy my job, my only source of income, was now standing in the rain, begging for money. Desperation had turned her from a tyrant into a beggar. And still, she couldn't say sorry. Still, she couldn't admit what she did. I stood there, arms crossed, watching Margaret shiver in the rain. It should have made me feel something, pity, maybe, vindication, a twisted sense of satisfaction. But all I felt was numb. You tried to ruin me, I said flatly. I know, she whispered. You broke into my office, forged emails, tampered with my work, and printed out a resignation letter like you had the right to decide my life. I know, she repeated, almost like she was begging me to stop reminding her. Emily, please. I was angry, afraid. I thought if I could get you out of that job, you'd stay home. You'd be more manageable. I took a step closer. You didn't want me to stay home. You wanted me to disappear. Her eyes flicked to the ground. That's not true. No? Then why didn't you stop when I got sick? When I cried in front of Alex? When I begged you to just leave me alone? She didn't answer. Because it wasn't about protecting Alex. It was about control. About winning. She looked up, her voice trembling. Do you really think I wanted to destroy your life? Yes, I said coldly. And you nearly did. Silence fell between us. Just the sound of the rain tapping against the concrete and the pounding of my heart in my ears. Finally, she whispered, I've lost everything. I tilted my head slightly. No, Margaret. You threw everything away. That was when the door behind me opened. Alex. He had been listening. His eyes scanned his mother, drenched, wilted, pleading, and then met mine. Is it true? He asked her quietly. Margaret's lips quivered. Alex, I was only trying to answer the question. She looked at him, her son, like she was seeing him clearly for the first time. Yes, she said. I did it. He closed his eyes. And I saw it in his face, something break. The trust, the loyalty, the blind defense he had always given her. It shattered. You didn't just hurt Emily, he said. You hurt me. You lied to me. I was trying to protect you. From what? A woman who loves me? Who built her own life? You were never protecting me. You were protecting your pride. Margaret sobbed, sinking onto the porch step like her knees couldn't hold her anymore. I'm sorry, she whispered. But it was too late. Alex turned to me. What do you want to do? I stared at Margaret, her soaked coat, the mascara running down her face, the hands that once tried to rip everything from mine now trembling in fear. I want her gone, I said. No more dinners. No more drop-ins. No more games. I want boundaries. I want peace. Alex nodded. I'll handle it, he said. He stepped forward and crouched beside his mother. You need to leave, Mom. Tonight. And I think you should get help. Because what you did, it wasn't just cruel. It was dangerous. She opened her mouth to argue, but the look in his eyes silenced her. This is your fault, he added quietly. And I won't let you hurt her again. That was it. The confrontation I had feared for so long had finally come. But it hadn't ended in screaming or chaos. It had ended in truth. And truth, when spoken without fear, is stronger than anything else. Margaret stood slowly, clutching her purse like it was the only thing keeping her upright. She didn't say goodbye. She just walked away, her footsteps echoing down the sidewalk like the last notes of a bitter song. Alex and I stood on the porch for a long time. The rain had stopped, but the air between us still felt heavy. I'm sorry, he said finally, for not seeing it sooner, for not believing you. I don't need you to be perfect, I said. I just need you to see me and protect me the way I've been trying to protect this marriage. He pulled me into his arms and held me like he hadn't in months. I'm here now, he whispered. And this time I believed him.
But still, something inside me had changed.
I wasn't the same woman who had walked into this house years ago hoping to be accepted. Now I knew my worth, and I would never let anyone erase it again. The next day, Margaret tried calling both of us. We didn't answer. She left a voicemail sobbing, then another one angry, and a third one pretending like nothing had happened. I saved them all, just in case. Then I blocked her number. I thought that would be the end, that I'd finally found peace. But 2 weeks later, I got a call. From a private number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. Hello. There was a pause on the line, then a soft, nervous voice. Is this Emily Carter? Yes, who's this? This is Stacy Wallace. I work at Redwood Financial. I was handling Margaret Carter's accounts. I hope I'm not overstepping, but she listed you as a potential emergency contact before she disappeared. Disappeared? I echoed.
Yes.
She cleared out her account, closed her credit line, and left a note at the office. It just said, I've made a mess I can't fix. My stomach dropped. She's gone. I asked. We don't know, but she hasn't answered calls. Her phone's off. No one's seen her for 4 days. I thanked her and hung up. Then I just sat there.
Still. Silent. Gone?
Did she run? Break down? Was this her final move? I didn't know. All I knew was the story wasn't over. And maybe it never would be. The days that followed were filled with quiet. Not the kind that brings peace, but the kind that makes every creak in the house feel like a whisper from the past. Alex tried to stay strong, but I could see the storm behind his eyes. He was grieving someone who wasn't dead, mourning the version of his mother he had invented in his head. I, on the other hand, was living with a new version of myself. One who had looked betrayal in the face and hadn't flinched. One who had chosen truth over tolerance. I still checked the front door every night. I still scanned the street from the upstairs window, half expecting to see her car parked down the block like it had been that night she came begging. But there was nothing. No calls. No updates. No closure. Until one morning, nearly 4 weeks later, I received a plain white envelope in the mail. No return address. Just my name, written in shaky cursive. I opened it slowly. Inside was a short letter. Emily, I've lost everything. I don't expect forgiveness, and I don't expect you to ever trust me again. But you were right.
About everything.
I ruined things because I was afraid. Afraid you'd take Alex from me. Afraid of being replaced. I see now that I never had to compete with you. I just had to love you. I failed. I'm leaving the country. I won't say where. I just want to start over. I won't bother you again. But I needed you to know. You were never the problem. I was. Margaret. I read it 3 times. The first time in disbelief. The second time in confusion. And the third time in a strange kind of sadness. Not because I missed her, but because I had wanted her to be better. I had wanted so badly to believe that family could heal. That apology could rewrite history. But some damage goes too deep. I showed the letter to Alex.
He stared at it for a long time.
Then he handed it back to me and said, "You don't have to carry her pain anymore." And I didn't. I tucked the letter away, not out of sentiment, but as a reminder of how far I'd come, of how easily power can be abused under the guise of love, of how a woman like Margaret could smile while she broke you, and cry only when the spotlight turned away from her. A month passed. Then, 2. Life slowly returned to something resembling normal. I started a new position at work. Higher up, more responsibility, and fully remote, which meant no more suspicious logins or surprise visits. Alex and I began therapy, separately and then together. And every time we sat down across from that couch, I discovered another layer of myself I had buried under years of politeness and restraint. One afternoon, I was cleaning the guest room, Margaret's old space. I found a box tucked in the closet. Inside were photographs. Me, Alex, and her.
Smiling.
Laughing. Fake moments frozen in time. I picked one up. It was from Thanksgiving 3 years ago. She had her arm around me, but I remembered what had happened that night. She'd made a comment about my cooking. Said it tasted store-bought. I had laughed it off, because what else could I do? Now, I stared at the photo and saw it clearly. That wasn't a hug. That was a hold. Like she was trying to pin me into the frame of the life she wanted to control. I put the photo back, closed the box, and threw it out. Not because I was bitter, but because I no longer needed the fiction. Weeks later, I was sipping tea on the back porch when I got a message. From an unknown number. Just a single line. "I hope you're happy now." My heart skipped. No name. No number trace. But I knew who it was. Margaret. Even halfway across the world, or wherever she had gone, she still couldn't resist trying to claw her way back into relevance. I didn't respond. I deleted it and blocked the number. But that night, I changed the locks again, just in case. Some ghosts don't need to haunt your home to haunt your peace. And some people never really leave, they just go quiet long enough to make you doubt your strength. But I wasn't that scared girl anymore. Not the one who tiptoed through her own home. Not the one who swallowed insults to keep the family intact. I had found my voice. And it was louder than guilt. Sharper than shame. I stood up for myself. And I didn't flinch. Sometimes, healing doesn't come with a perfect bow or a big confrontation scene. Sometimes it looks like this. A woman sitting alone, reading a goodbye letter from someone who tried to destroy her. And not crying, not shaking, just breathing.
Alive.
Intact. Unmoved. Because survival, in itself, is a kind of revenge. And peace? Peace is the final twist.